Welcome to NightMerica, a podcast that takes you on a tour of the abnormal, paranormal, weirdly true, and truly weird in every corner across this nation. Because, to paraphrase Ray Parker Jr., whether it's ghosts, aliens, monsters, or monstrous humans, there's something strange in your neighborhoods. I'm Aaron Sagers, and you might know me, you might not know me. I am a journalist who has focused on nerdy things like sci-fi comic books, also paranormal things, and I have appeared on multiple TV shows talking about the paranormal, including Paranormal Paparazzi on Travel Channel, Paranormal Challenge, Portals to Hell, Paranormal Lockdown on Evidence Uncovered, I believe was the name of it. And currently on Paranormal Caught on Camera on Travel Channel. So I'm a big paranormal nerd, talk about ghosty stuff, monster stuff, UFO stuff. And I'm also talking too long because I need to hear from my co-host on this. Britt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I am not as experienced as my co-host. I am, in fact, a retail manager, but have been a huge fan of specifically true crime, but also paranormal or just weird things.
So that creates a good balance. You're definitely more into true crime, but are interested in the paranormal, and I probably know a little bit more maybe about the paranormal, but I'm definitely interested in true crime, and it creeps me out, and it meanwhile is like helps you sleep at night or something, right?
It completely helps me sleep.
You don't stay up. You can't you're not kept from falling asleep after listening to
No,
true crime.
In fact, my napping TV show is Forensic Files.
Okay. Yeah. Meanwhile, I listen to some of the podcasts out there, which are all very good, but they disturb me on a deep core intrinsic level. That's a good question. That's not really a question, but a good segue, because why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?
Because we have a passion for weird, paranormal, creepy things.
Right.
And we want to give America nightmares.
What they want.
Yes.
They want this podcast. They're like, there's no true crime and paranormal podcasts out there.
Can you believe it?
We need this.
There is an opening in the market, and we're going to snag it.
Yes.
We're going to be the first.
What they don't want, probably, is a lot of paranormal shows out there are dominated by old white dudes, and I guess, God help me, I am an older, very white dude. And so I'm very much in that demographic, but you are not.
I am not. Nope. I am 30, flirty, and thriving. But I am now also part of the group of female true crime podcasters suffering with millennial vocal fry. So we're just kind of covering both demographics.
What is millennial vocal fry?
It's like what the Kardashians say when they have this voice.
Oh. I thought that was what's-her-face from Schitt's Creek.
Alexis.
Is that millennial vocal?
Yes.
That's what she has?
That's what she has.
I didn't know that was even an I'm learning things already, and that's why I think that this podcast is an interesting kind of approach, a mission, because I don't want to just listen to other dudes talk about stuff. And I think it's interesting to get your take on things because you're into this stuff, but there's just not enough women that are prominent in this field. There are some like Amy Bruni on Kindred Spirits, awesome lady, but and a friend of mine, but not a lot of younger, 30 and flirty, as you say.
It just rolls off your tongue.
It doesn't. I kind of feel like I die a little bit inside every time.
Every time you call yourself flirty and thriving?
Well, I'm definitely not 30, and the thriving is very debatable. I mean, I have a pulse, I guess, but I'm not flirty nor thriving. Okay, so that's why we're doing it. So you're into this, I'm into this, and
Let's get into this.
Let's get it. So what did we discuss about sort of the approach to this?
So I feel like our approach will be taking a location, be it a state, be it a...
You didn't think this through,
I
did you?
didn't think this through at all.
Well, I mean, what we talked about was that instead of just focusing on a location, like a town, and talking about the ghosts or UFO activity, and that's the other thing. It's like we're going to talk about true crime,
everything,
ghosty stuff, monster stuff, right?
What gives you
Cryptic
nightmares?
Stuff, UFO stuff, urban legends, like. So, but instead of focusing on like one town, we're gonna kind of think about areas, like landmark types of landmarks.
Yeah.
So, colleges,
parks,
bars, hotels, maybe. What else?
Shopping malls,
shopping
centers.
Wow, that seems like a good topic to start with.
It does seem like a great topic to start with.
How
funny that I have a page of notes.
I know, it's such a coincidence.
Talk to me about your mall memories.
Malls, yeah. So we're going to talk about malls and shopping centers. Since I was a child of the 80s, malls were very much a place where you would go to. Later on, it was where you would go to hang out with your guy friends and also go on like a quote-unquote date.
Oh,
but yeah, earlier on, though, it was like a kind of a magical, bustling place. And for me, I always liked the Walden books. I was a big fan of going there for comic books, and then also,
Did they name after Walden Pond?
I don't know. His books? I don't know. But it's a question. That should be another podcast.
Done.
But, and so I liked those kinds of things, which is cool because right now we're seeing a lot of things like Stranger Things, reference malls and stuff. It was like these magical places, but also kind of nefarious because they're so loaded with strangers, a lot of stranger danger. I encountered that a lot as a kid. Like, I grew up in a time of like where everybody's worried about your kids getting kidnapped and everything, and a lot of that was sort of focused around shopping centers and malls, like people just snatching a kid. And
would your parents tell you what to do if you were separated from them?
It was funny. My mom told me at a young age to like do sort of like a palm punch to someone's nose, shoving their bone up into their brain. My mom's a very sweet woman, but man, she got a little hardcore.
That is hardcore.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I did tell you this, that like one of the earliest prayers she taught me, I was raised Catholic, one of the earliest prayers she taught me was like an exorcism prayer. Which is also disturbing and hardcore.
Totally normal.
Something we should probably get into at some point. But and you told me you're
Yes, yeah. I was told to not notify an adult because you can't trust anybody. And if you were to be taken, to just wet your pants, pee yourself, and throw up.
And so you can do that on command now. So I was drinking. It was a dramatic pause, but I was also taking a sip.
We can also edit that out. I was taught... I pretty much probably could wet my pants just because being a retail manager, I'm used to just holding it because you can't go to the bathroom whenever you want. I don't think I could throw up on command.
I don't think I could.
No.
I don't think I could pee my pants on command either. I can be a shy peer.
I think that's a dude thing. I think men are shy peers. Yeah. Well, you've got like more to handle. Oh.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Anyway.
I like that we only got 5 minutes into this before
I made it weird.
Innuendo, was ready to go. But so because you work so much in malls, like when was the first mall you worked at? Like, or what age? Not what.
Well, the first retail job I got, I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And it was in a locally owned store that was very, very small.
So do malls like seem creepy or odd to you since you've worked in them so long?
They don't seem creepy to me, but I certainly see a wide variety of the public. So I worked in an outlet for a while, and we would sometimes be notified by mall management that a man was going around feeling up the mannequins. Or at a very nice mall that I worked at in the Chicago suburbs, the mall managers and mall security guards would often see shady business going down in like the back hallways and like the garbage facilities.
Like drugs?
I think drugs. They never said it outright, but drug deals and things like that. And my main security manager, who I adored, often would say it's not who you think it is. Like, it's not, you know, the millennial kids, you know, trading things in the back. It would be like business people or people in nice attire that would be doing it. So you see a big cross-section of the community in malls.
I don't know how much of this is true, but I know that my parents told me a lot. Well, my mom in particular, about like creepy types, creepy sorts that were trying to like lure kids away or whatever, which is I had an incident when I was a kid where I got separated from my parents and I started following this woman that I believed was my mom from behind. It wasn't, but I was following her for a good long time, and I was like, "Mom, Mom, Mommy, Mom, Mom," and she wouldn't turn around, and then I got like close enough to her to like tug on her sleeve or whatever, like, "Mom," and she turned around. It wasn't her. It wasn't my mom. It may have been someone's mom, but
I'm gonna doubt it if she didn't answer to mom.
It was terrifying because it wasn't what I expected it to be, which I think is also like a kind of a sort of popular theme in stories that that's not what it turned out to be. It's like the twist, you know.
Yeah.
But that stayed with me. But so we're gonna dive into some mall story. Let's just like give a brief overview. Why are we, without getting into too much detail, why are we talking about malls today? Why did we land on this as the kickoff topic?
I have a previous coworker who I am now friends with, who has footage of a ghost at a store that she managed, that she worked at. They were called in the middle of the night because something had entered into the store. You know, all stores have security cameras and we have security sensors to notify us if people are moving about in the store. And they were notified in the middle of the night that there was movement inside the front of the store. So, of course, you have to go. And the police are notified. They went back and reviewed the tapes, and there was not a living being moving inside the store.
And let me stop you there. We'll come back to that later.
Yes.
Let's come back to that later.
It's cliffhanger.
Yeah, there was something. It is interesting footage, but we'll come back to it later. We don't know what it is. Well, on that note, so yeah, shopping centers, obviously places where a lot of people pass through, even today. Even though everybody's shopping online and everything, still a lot of people move about. So with that, I'm gonna cue it up. Like, what's your story?
My story today takes place in a Safeway grocery store in San Francisco. This is in the Sunset District, a little bit outside of the city center. And it is of a ghost of a little boy seen haunting the bread aisle of this Safeway. And let me tell you, if I was haunting anything, it most likely would be a bread aisle.
The ghost of carbs.
Totally.
Okay. Well, what's the story?
So I'm going to start with a little bit of background because that helps color kind of my thought of what this all comes from. In the 19th century, prior to kind of the intense commercialization of San Francisco, they built a tunnel kind of leading from the city center to the beach, from like the Twin Peaks tunnel, into what is called now the Sunset District. It at the time was mainly just sand dunes and beachy area. And after the 1906 earthquake, the dunes kind of became a dumping ground for any of the city's abandoned cable cars that were just being junked, horse cars, And these pretty cool, industrious squatters came in and turned these abandoned cable cars into houses, bars. Someone called one of them a coffee saloon, which is very hipster. And there is probably one in Brooklyn right now. But as the story goes, of course, these hipsters were run out of town by gentrification. And in 1920, more of these kind of civilized tourists started coming in. So
these were like proto-hipsters.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Gotcha.
But you can still see some of these like cable car homes in action. I'll post some of them to our Instagram, NightMerica podcast, so you listeners can see.
Nice plug. Well done.
So now we're in 1920. There is a local motel that is built on Taraval Avenue. It's because all of these tourists now want to come see this gorgeous area, this industrious new part of the city. And after a few years, a local gang burned down this motel. The man who owned it is rumored, according to the CBS San Francisco website, to owe money to this gang. So they burned it down to get kind of the insurance money back, which is very troubling. Brings us to more recent times. In the early 2000s, a Safeway is built on this exact spot where this motel burned down. And a few employees and shoppers have seen about a 7 to 10-year-old boy haunting mainly the bread aisle. Again, very well executed. In 2005, specifically, an employee was closing down the shop and walking to the restroom in the back of the store in this kind of alley. It's back of house, so it's a little bit darker, and was going to the restroom and walked back there and found the little boy standing facing a wall, which is an eerie sight to kind of stumble upon. But he's also been seen in other hallways sitting on crates, his arms kind of wrapped around his knees like you do when you're like sad or tired. You're sitting, you've got your arms wrapped around your knees, your head on your knees. It's just a very sad kind of visual. But it's often at night or times where the lighting is a little bit dark, so it's hard to kind of see what type of clothes he's wearing, what era he's coming from. So my view of all of this is that this little boy has come from the era of the 1920s when the motel was burned, and that he perhaps was either a resident of the motel, was the son of the owner, maybe it was, he was just staying there with his family and was trapped, or maybe it was even before then, during the time when all the cable cars were there. But I believe that he had lived there, and when we see him now facing a wall in this back hallway of the store, it was not a wall at the given time. It maybe was a window, right, and he's looking out onto the pool of the motel, or
who knows what it was?
Who
right?
knows?
Like,
we don't know.
It was, he has not interacted
Correct.
with anyone.
No one's been able to really interact with him, but everyone feels this intense sadness when they see him, which also leads me to believe that it was some sort of tragic end that he met in this area.
Maybe, there's a lot of, it's all theory, right? But, there's a lot of theories as to why a ghost would stick around, either unresolved business, some sort of sudden or tragic end where maybe they're processing what happened or don't understand what happened. They're stuck in the moment of their death, theory-wise. Or who knows? Again, they're all theories. Nobody's come back with rule books. But I did see, so take this with a grain of salt, but there were some comments that I saw online about this. Yeah, and so the last sighting that you have documented was
2005.
right. So there was a couple comments I found in 2018 and
Ooh,
2019.
excellent. Recent.
And one again, internet comments. You never never know.
What's
but,
on the internet is fact.
But yes, it's true. Everything is absolutely real, including the Neiman Marcus cookie recipe. That's an old thing. Do you understand
yeah, they're
the reference?
delicious cookies.
Oh, are they? Is it actually?
Yeah,
are
I've
they
baked
good cookies?
them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but so in 2018, someone commented on a website that they have worked at the store and worked in the bread aisle, and bread is always falling off the shelves. It could also be bad bread placement. I don't know. But
soft, squishy, slipping off each other.
Or if you see me when I go through a grocery store and I'm trying to be very cool by taking something off the shelf and then I walk away and then a bunch of other things.
100.
Not a ghost, just I'm a klutz. And then in 2019, on a website called hauntedplaces.org, just to give them credit where it's due, someone commented that I grew up in this neighborhood in the early 80s going on weekly trips to the Safeway. My little sister would tell us about seeing a boy all the time. She said he seemed sad and always wanted to try and help him. Both my mom and I always felt something else, distinctly malevolent, in the elevator. I was there a few months ago again, and despite a new elevator, I still get hairs on the back of my neck and something feels downright wrong in there. Did you see anything in your research about anything seeming downright wrong?
No, a lot of what I saw was sadness.
I always take that with a grain of salt because you never know. People oftentimes apply their own opinions to possible activity, and maybe they, sometimes people want something to be a little bit more malevolent. Maybe it is. I don't know. But that's an interesting one. I mean, grocery stores I always think about places with just a lot of activity, which I find interesting.
Yes, there's a lot of energy in grocery stores.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I think about also is that, just where I shop down the street, I don't know the whole history of the land that I'm on, or that it's on, but it's not exactly, new land. It's New York City.
No land is new land.
Yeah, we're living in New York City right now. Who knows what was built in these areas beforehand?
I mean, the Upper West Side was a lot of Native American Indian land at first. And the Bowery is where all the freed slaves were put when all the settlers came in, like the Dutch settlers.
Yeah.
To be a barrier between the Dutch people and Native American Indians. So there's a lot of negative energy in that part of the city.
Well, and it kind of it lends me to think about the sort of low key, I think everything's kind of haunted. There's history everywhere. There's the potential for activity anywhere. If you're going to believe in paranormal activity, which even I sometimes am on a very sliding scale about what I believe, but it's possible anywhere.
Do you believe in life after love?
I would sing that, but no one wants to hear that. And we would get sued. And no one wants to hear that. So, no, that's a really good story. I like that. And it's funny because it oddly reminds me of a flip side kind of story from California. It's a popular one. It's been around for a long time. There was this show called Haunted Lives, True Ghost Stories. It was hosted by Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock.
The ears.
Spock on Star Trek. And he also was the host of a great show called In Search Of in the 70s. Before I was born, but I am familiar with the show because it actually was a really notable show. But that aside, there was a Toys R Us.
R.I.P.
It's kind of weird.
R.I.P.
Toys R Us that was a kids store, obviously, but it was haunted supposedly by a ghost of a man named Johnson, who was a guy from the 1880s who was from a farm. He bled to death on a farm, and he now haunts the location and moves toys about, and people have heard him call names and following female employees into the bathroom, which is a little creepy.
So creepy.
Not cool, Johnson.
Hashtag me too.
Yeah. Me boo.
Well played.
Well, thank you. Yes, that's why I get paid the big bucks here, folks, for the bad puns.
We're not sponsored, but if you would like to,
Yeah.
please reach out to us on nightmericashow@gmail.com.
Yes, that's true. You do that. But just interesting that there's the flip side story. You should look that one up. It is actually a really popular story. The Toys R Us, obviously, has closed down. I don't know if the building is still there or not. But even if the building was torn down and there's a new building, doesn't mean that Johnson has gone away. He might still be sticking around. But I went in a different direction. Since you were such a champ and you talked about a ghost story, I decided to try a true crime story.
Awesome. I love it.
I hope you approve.
I do approve.
I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me in the true crime space.
Nothing like recording our very first episode, doing topics that are not in our personal strong suit, but are in the other person's personal strong suit.
Yeah, pretty much opposite of what anyone would advise. So the Cloverleaf Mall, this is the story. Not the Cloverfield Mall, which is what I've wanted to say many times because of the movie. But outside Richmond, Virginia, opened in August 1972. So when they opened, I found this to be an interesting fact in my research. They gave out parasols as souvenirs because parasols, unlike umbrellas, were classy and fashionable.
Bougie.
Yeah, that's what the former manager said in an interview. A lot of this comes from a website that you know very well, truecrimediary.com.
Absolutely. It was written by Michelle McNamara,
Yeah.
rest in peace, who
Yeah.
was a critical puzzle piece in solving the Golden State Killer.
Yeah, big deal of an investigator. So this was from her website. So Cloverleaf, when it opened, had over 40 stores, which I guess was kind of a big deal in 1972.
Absolutely.
Had a JCPenney and a Sears as their anchors. There was a 2-cinema theater. You could have an orange freeze at the Orange Bowl.
Ooh, delish.
I don't know what the Orange Bowl is.
I don't
Is
know
that
what the
like an
orange.
Julius?
I'm guessing it's like an Orange Julius, which is delicious.
Which I still never really had in the malls where I grew up.
It's kind of like an orange juice smoothie that has maybe like a little vanilla flavoring. Delish. Highly recommend.
This was like an anchor in the community. So changes in street design curbed a lot of traffic going to the mall. And other retail malls popped up, so it siphoned off customers. Business went downhill.
As is the life of a mall.
So the mall closed in February 2008. But before that happened, something tragic took place. In November 1996, Cheryl Edwards, who was 25, and Charlita Singleton, who was 36, were found brutally stabbed to death at the mall. The two were employees at the All for One dollar store, and really sad, their bodies were found inside, near the store's back door. This was the morning after they never came home, and the killer is still unknown. Their cars were found out in the parking lot. The family phoned authorities. They investigated, found these two women slain. Killer still unknown. The investigation found that the killer entered through the back door, which opened to the parking lot. And detectives were able to rule out any family members as suspects. Mm-hmm. These women lived a good life. They were just trying to work a job, raise money, raise their families.
They had kids?
Yeah.
Oh.
Neither of them had
sad.
any enemies or persons who would wish to do them harm. The detectives involved in this case have since retired. There were a lot of suspects throughout the years, but all leads had been exhausted. Well, so as I said, the mall closed in 2008, and then in 2011, it was demolished. Mm. And there's actually a new shopping center there. So anything that was even left over clues, all long gone. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Do we know who any of the suspects are? Do we have any idea? I mean, not necessarily names, but like what comes to my head working in retail was the back door locked when they came in. Do we know?
I think it was.
That makes me think it has to be a disgruntled ex-employee. Like, who would have keys as a back entrance.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these details, I'm sure, have also been lost 24
course.
years after the fact.
And you said they were stabbed?
Yeah.
That also leads me to believe that it was someone that knew them, because a stabbing feels very personal.
Well, yeah, I agree. So I mean, that is a very personal kind of thing. From what I've read, the sort of how they describe the stabbings seemed either like panicky or personal. Not someone that knew what they were doing. The other thing that I think about is like, this is a pretty low stake. So the money was gone. There was money removed from the site, but this is a pretty low stakes crime. It's a dollar store.
It's a dollar store. What are you gonna get?
Right.
A couple dollars.
I think an ex-employee makes sense
Yeah.
as far as suspect, someone that knew patterns enough.
Yes.
Or
knew that, at this certain time of night, you're usually towards the back of the store, counting down the deposit. If they open it, they haven't set the alarm yet, so the police won't be notified in that instance.
There were reported, this seems like such a, not dismissing it, but it's too much of a easy thing to point to. There were supposed gangs, a lot of gang activity in the area at the mall, but that doesn't automatically mean anything. It doesn't dismiss it, but I don't know. I don't know why this one stuck with me. I found it kind of disturbing, primarily because these families are still out there, even though this was 24 years ago, but there's still people that are related to these women.
They have little ones. That's so unfair. I've been doing a little Googling and found there's actually like a little twist to the case, according to Reddit, which is where we should all get all of our news because it's completely true all the time. Please note the sarcasm. It is Reddit. But someone says that a U-Haul was stolen in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and was found in the mall parking lot around the time of the murder. So, it doesn't say if it was related or not, but interesting that a stolen U-Haul would be found on the property at the same time as this.
That seems pretty, based on what you're saying, it looks reliable.
I think so. This person has put a lot of typing into it. They relate the True Crime Diary article and NBC and a few things like that, but I don't know much about American geography. Is Tennessee far from Virginia?
It's kind of far.
So interesting that someone from Tennessee would end up in Virginia. It makes me wonder if it was an ex-employee, someone who was fired, moved, and then didn't want, their car caught any
like a 10-hour drive.
Okay. Yeah. So you could reasonably do that in a day. They came. They didn't want their personal car to be marked through any tolls. So they stole this U-Haul and then maybe hitched a ride with someone they knew. Maybe they met someone there and, hitched a ride with someone they knew after.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just kind of sticks with me. The thing about true crime stuff is that I just get so hung up on, not to say you don't, because I know you do, but I get so hung up on the people.
Yeah.
The people whose lives were lost, because they were probably, I just can't get past the fact that these women, they went to their job, they probably were just looking forward to the end of their shift to go home.
Well, don't we all? We're ready to put our feet up. We've been standing for 8 hours.
Or eat whatever leftovers or dinner is waiting for them at home.
Hope their kid took the chicken out to defrost.
Hoping for a couple hours of reprieve before you just have to go back and do it the next day. So it's just not that anybody deserves it. It just seems like such a
they didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
These women sound
for
like good women.
Pocket change, this was not a high stakes heist. So, well, okay, that said, that I don't know. That one,
That's tough.
bums me out.
Should we
But
end on a lighter note?
do you want the teeth story?
Yes.
Do you want the teeth story?
I love this story.
Do you?
You guys are going to love this story.
Well, this is about 11 years old. This is 2009. I'm gonna reference southcoasttoday.com out of where was this?
Cape Cod?
I guess so. Yeah, Cape Cod.
That's what you told me last
So, yeah, out of Cape Cod. A Walmart customer was shopping for a new wallet.
Because of course it was Walmart.
Of course it was Walmart. Was shopping for a new wallet, and while looking through the billfold to inspect, make sure there's no holes or anything, found 10 human teeth in the wallet.
It's not right. It's not right.
Well, the teeth, they were, when I first read this, I imagined they were like sort of in the actual billfold part of the wallet, but it was in one of the wallet's compartments. And one tooth, which was from an adult, said the police, had a filling. The male customer turned the wallet over to Walmart employees, but left the store without giving his name before police arrived. The wallet still had original tags on it, but police said they cannot perform DNA tests because there was no blood and no gum tissue on the teeth. So these were, cleaned up teeth, apparently.
No, that's so wrong. That's so gross.
What would you do if you found 10 teeth?
I would scream, drop the wallet, and probably just leave. What would you do?
I would keep one of the teeth.
Oh, gross, Aaron.
Just one. And
would you notify mall management? Would you notify
I'd be like, I found 9 teeth in this wallet.
You know what that manager would do? Like, honestly, probably just throw it away because there's like 5 people that are running late for their shift and like they just can't care.
Like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah, one
today.
more thing.
Like, was it your teeth? Did you pull the teeth out of someone?
Yes.
Was anyone walking around
They're like,
asking for their teeth?
Oh, okay, thanks, sir. We're going to bubble this up to corporate and just dump the wallet upside down, throw it out, and just put it back on the shelf.
I have to admit that I didn't know that you could not perform DNA tests on the teeth.
I didn't either.
You would think you'd be able to, because teeth come from our body. You would imagine
They're bones,
there'd be like,
right?
Yeah,
teeth are bones.
I would imagine there'd be some sort of, I don't know. But, the tooth story.
That's an amazing ending.
Maybe it was the tooth fairy.
It was.
Yes.
She needed to get a gift for her boyfriend, the Easter Bunny.
Is it a she? I never assumed the tooth fairy was a female, just because it was a fairy.
I assume I picture her wearing like a pink tutu and has the wand.
Yeah, but that's not what... See, that's true. But fairies are not, like, nice like that in folklore. They're not, like, lovely little creatures.
Yeah, but the tooth fairy is nice. Don't
Okay.
make it weird. They come in when kids are sleeping.
Here's a random story to end on. Tooth fairy, when we're recording this time of year, it's in mid-March. My mom claims, to this day, that she saw the Easter Bunny.
To this day?
To this day.
How old was she?
I thought she was something where she just wanted to preserve belief for us.
And she's like, no.
We were big Easter Bunny.
We should get her on the podcast.
We
should do an episode.
We should.
Cryptid.
She claims that when she was a little girl, outside of her window, she saw like a oversized bunny.
Was it standing on
man-sized, human-sized bunny?
We're doing an episode on this. It's a cryptid.
And it was at Easter. It wasn't just in October. Yeah.
Could it have been like a neighbor dad?
Could have been. I don't know. I haven't thought about this story that my mom told me until right this moment. Things just spring up in my mind sometimes. Yeah.
I bet it was like a neighbor dad.
Yeah.
Hiding eggs.
Or maybe it was the frickin' Easter Bunny.
It was.
I mean, he's got one time of the year to shine.
Yeah, make it count.
Yeah. So.
Excellent.
On that note, all right. So we've got ghosts, true crime, teeth, whatever category you want to put that in. So let's talk about this footage that we saw from a major shopping location. I think we could say it's a Target.
It's a Target.
It's a Target. So Britt brought this footage to me, showed it to me, and I I think it's really impressive. I find it to be really compelling footage. We can post this on our Instagram.
Yep.
And
our social media manager will post it.
Yes, I think that's you.
Yeah.
And
it's Roxy. It's Aaron's dog.
My dog, yes. So from what I see, look, I never go on record as saying it's officially a ghost. I don't know what it is, but it does appear that we see some sort of anomaly on the footage, kind of moving about in the fringes of the frame, and what appears like quote-unquote walking, if you want to say, moving up to the doors, and then actually looks like it moves beyond the doors.
Through the doors, correct.
And then comes out again.
Yes.
And this is like 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m., I believe. And I don't have the footage right in front of me, but I have looked at it a lot. And what did you think when you first saw this?
So I first saw this, just to give a little backstory. Rachel and I were previously coworkers at my old company, and she was friends with a woman who is the loss prevention manager at a Target in Kansas City, which is where this footage came from. Like Aaron said, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and she got a phone call where she had to get up, as we retail managers do, and make sure no one had broken in, only to find out no one had broken in. The doors were in perfect shape.
Right, I forgot about all this.
And it was the alarm that notified them. Otherwise, why would you look back at the footage if nothing happened? The alarms went off at the exact same time that this apparition goes through the doors.
Yeah, so we have some sort of interaction with the alarm system. That's really compelling because you have that piece of evidence on top of the camera footage. And what I think of with that is that, you know, there's the ideas of sort of residual haunting versus intelligent. Are you familiar with those? Do you want me to...
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so a residual haunting, and again, all this is theory. I say this a lot, but residual haunting is basically a moment frozen in time, like a record player, or a skipping CD for you kids out there. I don't know why I'm sounding like, I know, like even that, an MP3, a skipping, a
8-track?
buffering, yes. I don't know what would the modern
Did you have an 8-track?
We had a car that had an 8-track. I never owned an 8-track. I never even really owned a record player. I was a CD, a tape kid, and then CD kid.
Got it. I was CDs.
But the idea of like something being locked in time. So if someone follows the same path every day for 50 years, that maybe when they pass, their energy is imprinted in a location. Or if something really tragic happens, that moment is so shocking and momentous, it locks it in time, it preserves it. But in this case, it could be perceived as residual if it wasn't interacting with the footage as we see. I realize podcasts are an audio medium, and we're talking about things in terms of visual, but that's why you've got to go to the Instagram account and check this out. It looks like this thing, whatever it may be, is going directly to a door. Like, it knows it's going to a door. And it's worth, if we can research what this thing was before it was
so it looks
a
like
target.
It's 2:03 a.m.
2:03 a.m.
To be honest, from my end, I actually think it looks like a deer.
So an intelligent haunting is when something, in theory, knows what it's doing and interacting with an environment, and it maintains some level of consciousness or whatever. Looks like a deer.
So it first enters the screen on the right-hand side. You see it kind of hover and then pass through the door, and then it quickly moves away. To me, as it moves away on the right-hand side, it looks almost like it's walking on all fours like a deer would.
And yet, it's clearly not registering as a deer in that footage. I mean, it's like blurry. You definitely, this is not something where you have to interpret what you're seeing. You definitely see something coming out of the top right-hand side of the frame, kind of moving about on the fringes, going up to the door, looking like it's interacting with the door, bouncing off the door, and then leaving. I mean, I could see where you're coming from as far as if this was deer, that would make sense if it was only clear, but it's not.
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
So I find that fascinating, but that was essentially what led to our conversation and why we were talking about shopping malls, shopping centers, and big stores today. I don't know what it is. I would love to hear what people have to say about this. Speaking of which, I think it's time to round up this conversation. Let's wind down here. So, Britt, where can people find you?
You can find us at NightMerica Podcast on Instagram, or if you have an incredible story to share, please email it to us. Any photos, video footage, to nightmericashow@gmail.com. You can find me personally at thatshopgirl on Instagram. And where can we find you?
Well, you can find me at Aaron Sagers on Instagram and Twitter and all over the place, and of course at the NightMerica locations that Britt just mentioned. And wherever you find us, we hope we find you on another episode.